I ran a workshop last week on leaving corporate and building something of your own. And about 30 minutes in, someone typed in the chat, I thought I was planning my escape. I didn't realize I was calling it strategy. Let me run that back. I thought I was planning my escape. I didn't realize I was calling it strategy. Because that right there, that's where where experienced high earning professionals, the people with real corporate currency, that's where they get it wrong. The whole room went quiet, but that's the moment you realize you've been reacting to how bad it feels instead of building towards what's next. So if that lands for you, I want you to stay with me because today we're talking about one thing that keeps experienced professionals with too much to lose stuck longer than they need to be. Hey, Substack, I see you in the chat. So, look, I get it. The fear that you can't replace your income. So, if you're serious about leaving corporate the right way, this definitely is the place to be. I am hosting a free corporate exit planning workshop tomorrow, but I needed to jump on here today to directly address some of the things that came about from our last workshop. So I'll have that link down below. But let's go back to the fear that you can't replace your income. So here's what I know about most of you watching this. You don't lack ambition, you don't lack skills, you don't even lack ideas. You're not confused, you're just not structured yet. You know you're capable of more. You just don't know how to turn I hate Mondays into I'm launching in quarter 3. That's the language. And underneath all of this is it's one very real and very valid fear. What if I can't make the same money? That was the reoccurring thing that came up in our last workshop. So I asked the room, I called them out. I said, what scares you most about leaving? Your income, your reputation, or your relationships? And 4 people in a row said the same thing: income, income, income. Not will people respect me, not will I lose my network. It was income, and I get it. Because when you spent 10, 15, 20 years building a salary and benefits and bonuses, maybe stock options, the idea of walking away from that, it feels reckless. And it can feel like you're starting over. But here's what I told them and what I'm telling you: you're not starting over, you're starting from something. And that's the difference between panic and a plan. So I want to be really clear about something. You will not replace your corporate income overnight. It has to be said. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that you're going to leave your job on Friday and make 6 figures by Monday. That's not real. And anyone who's telling you that is selling hype, not strategy. But here's what is real. You don't need to replace 100% of your income on day one. You need to replace enough of it to give yourself what we call runway. And most people don't realize how much closer they are to that number than they think. So let me show you what I mean. We got YouTube. I see your comments, YouTube, Substack over here. Let me show you all what this means. Think about all the things you built over 10, 15, 20 years in corporate. The credibility. People trust your judgment. They ask you for your opinion. They defer to your expertise. Your relationships. That's when your network spans across companies, industries, sectors. You know people who know people. And then your operational know-how. This is when a lot of my people, they're the best kept secret. You know, they built the systems, you've led the teams, managed the budgets, solved problems that most people they never even seen. And this is natural to you. And then the fourth thing here is the leadership capital. Capital. I'm tongue tied today. You've been the person in the room when the decisions get made, and that is a golden place and a golden place to be. Now, here's where most people, this is what they miss. Those assets don't disappear when you leave. The question is whether you leverage them or you leave them behind. Because the fastest way to replace your income, it's not starting from scratch. I get it. I understand burnout. I understand misalignment, but it's to monetize what you've already built, to stand on top of it. That's what's going to lead you to second act success. So it could be, this is what it looks like. It could be a consulting project. That's where your credibility starts converting. The advisory role, that's your relationships paying you. And there's a term now, an emerging term, the fractional leadership gig. That's your operational experience becoming income. So you don't need a new skill set. You just need a new container, a new structure. You don't leave corporate and then figure out how to make money. You'd be surprised. So many people make these reckless leaps. You figure out how to make money and then you leave, right? That's the sequence that protects your income, your family, and your peace. So let me make this practical. What does that actually look like in real life? Because it's easy to stand on a soapbox and preach, but what does that look like in real life? It looks like this. You don't quit your job and then start posting on Substack or LinkedIn. You build that voice before you need it to pay you. You don't resign and then reach out to your network. You start the conversations while you still have the title, because in all honesty, people return calls faster when you're employed. You don't walk away and then figure out what business you want to build. You test it, refine it, maybe even sell it before you turn in your resignation. And for those of you ready to retire, before you retire, the ideal here is build the bridge before you cross it. So last week, someone in the virtual planning in our session last week, they said, the first time around, I took the emotional route. I was in my feelings. And I felt that. 10 years ago, I was in that exact same place, my first corporate layoff. Because, most of us has made at least one career move from emotion instead of clarity. But here's the number one sign that your transition plan is built on urgency instead of strategy. You're focused on leaving, not what you're building toward. So you know the date you want to quit, but you don't know what the business is or what you actually be getting paid to do. You know you want out, but you don't know who you're serving or how you're going to get paid. That's urgency. Let me tell you what strategy says. Strategy says, I know what I'm building. I know who it's for. I know how I'm going to sell it. And I'm building it before I need it to pay me. You hear the proactiveness? We're on offense for my football people, my sports people. You hear the offense here? You don't leave and then you figure it out. You figure it out and then you leave. Now, I understand circumstances. I've been affected by 2 corporate layoffs, and I definitely support professionals. But the idea is to get ahead of it. In my organization, the rounds of layoff, the tide was coming. So I support people in reading the room, reading the market, understanding the signs outside of the actual walls that they work in to get ahead of that. So back to what I'm saying, you don't leave and then figure out, you figure it out and then you leave. But in all honesty, that's just not what people do these days. You hit a breaking point. You start Googling how to start this business and that business at midnight. And you tell yourself, you'll figure it out how you get there. But that's not a plan. That's hope. And hope doesn't pay your mortgage. Hope doesn't cover health insurance. Hope doesn't protect your family, but a plan does. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be real and data backed. So a plan says I'm going to build a $3,000 a month in consulting. I'm going to build up $3,000 a month in consulting before I leave. This is how you test. This is how you refine. A plan says I'm going to have 3 advisory clients locked in before I retire. Or I'm going to know exactly what business or offer, what it is, who I'm serving, and how am I going to do it? Am I going to be brick and mortar? Am I going to be virtual? Am I going to travel? Am I nomad? Before I walk away from my paycheck. That's how you leave without losing. So here's the thing. Most people, they wait until they're completely burnt out to start building a plan. But by then, they're making decisions from desperation and exhaustion. They're not clear. There's no clarity. You don't have to do it that way. So for those of you tapped in tomorrow, today is Wednesday. Tomorrow, March 19th, midday, I'm in Central Time Zone. I'm running the full workshop, Build Your Corporate Exit Plan. We're going to go through how to know if you're actually ready to leave. Or is it just you need a better boundary? Because we break down the difference between, a lot of people use burnout and misalignment interchangeably, but there's a key difference here. Tomorrow, I'm going to go over how to start building a business before you ever depend or need to depend on it to replace your income. That's where the real leverage is. That's where the real power is. And how to position your experience so your credibility carries you into your next second act success. And then finally, the exact plan, exit strategy that protects the income, that protects the influence you've built up and your identity. So last week in my planning session, it was so good. So good, y'all. Someone registered during the session, and before I even sent them the replay, they said in the chat, you spitting gems. And here's the truth. Let me tell you, this isn't theory for me. This is the exact process I use, and which gave me so much peace in my transition, involuntarily, but voluntarily. That's a different story. You'll learn that tomorrow. But it gave me so much peace of mind in my corporate season or exit, if you will. And it's the exact process I teach. I think one thing about those of us that are accomplished and degree, that I think we overcomplicate a lot. But I'm gonna be very honest. Simplicity scales and simplicity sells. You with me? So in this process that lets you leave corporates, again, we don't want to sacrifice your leverage, your income, and we don't want to create an unnecessary headache in the process. So if you're thinking about resigning, or for those of you that are near retirement, this is how you avoid years of rebuilding. And if you've been sitting on this decision for months, this is where we stop thinking and start stretching. Your New Year's 2027 is going to look completely different. So the link is in the comments. I'm not jumping on long today because I'll be teaching the full workshop tomorrow. But I did want to come on because the idea is, are you escaping, or are you actually strategizing and putting together a realistic and profitable exit strategy? That's why I want to jump on today and highlight the question of and the valid fear of replacing your corporate income. There's a bridge to be built before we cross, and I'm gonna walk you through that. So I'll drop the link in the comments. Substack, you'll have the replay shortly where you'll be able to register and lock in. So I'll have all that set up, and I got a few seconds. I'm looking at the chat here on YouTube, LinkedIn. I think I got everything covered that I wanted to today, and I hope this was valuable for somebody, because I understand living in the fear. But we need to stop focusing and obsessing so much on the obstacle and start opening up ourselves to the opportunity. So you all have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you all tapping in. For those of you joining me tomorrow, I'll see you in the full workshop. Have a good day.